This video is an invitation to a Synod-wide Stewardship Day in the South Carolina Synod. Generous Stewardship, God's Story, Our Story, September the 6th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Zion Lutheran Church in Lexington. Our leaders will be Nick Kiger, Director for Mission Support ELCA, and Tim Brown, Director for Congregational Stewardship, ELCA.
We're grateful to have both Nick and Tim with us today to learn a little bit more about the workshop that we're going to be offering and inviting you to be a part of. Nick has been to South Carolina a few times, I believe, already. We're always grateful for his trips down to visit with us, to share with us about mission support and the impact it has with throughout the church, not just simply here in South Carolina, but throughout the church when we all work together. And mission support has always been very critical to the ministry we're doing. In fact, to what we're doing with our workshop as well. So, Nick, it's great to have you back with us. And I'm going to gear this first question toward you. And a second question, I'll go with Tim on that as our Director of Stewardship at the church-wide office. Nick, that first question is, so congregations that are coming out and participating in this, what will be the takeaway from this narrative budget workshop that we're offering on September 6th? What will be a takeaway or takeaways?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I'm really excited to make my way back down to South Carolina from Ohio. And yeah, on the 6th, we'll be talking about narrative budgets. And before you can have a narrative budget, you have to have stories. And what I find is one of the most challenging parts about having stories is gathering those stories. And so the first half of our day will be spent on talking about how we can be better story hearers, how we can ask questions, how we can find the stories that our congregations have to tell, how we can even find those stories that aren't right in front of us all the time, that we don't always get to hear. And I think we'll come away with a few things from that. First is we will be confident in the fact that every person has a story and every person has a story to tell, and every person is a storyteller. Likewise, every congregation has a story. Every congregation has a story to tell, and our narrative budget is one of the ways in which we can do that. When we switch gears to talking more specifically about the narrative budget, we'll kind of apply what we learned about and how we hear stories to, okay, how do we take those stories that we've heard and connect them to the numbers that are in our budget? How do we use our numbers and the stories that we hear to tell the story of the life of our congregation? And then how do we use that as a tool for us to increase engagement, increase generosity, but most importantly, just the way in which we talk about the life of our congregation together, how we tell the story of who we are as a congregation. So those are the big things, the big takeaways that we hope congregations will leave on the 6th having, and some very specific tools, some very specific ways to engage in these things.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that very much. And that I agree with the stories. Often our congregations, what we find is that we're not very good at telling our own story. And I think the narrative budget is certainly a way in which to do that, because we know in the past work that we've done with you and also with others on stewardship development, how important that is, the telling the story about who we are, because people will give to that mission. They will give to that story. Because they connect to it. And we all have a story to share as individuals, like you said, as individuals and as congregations. And Tim, I want to direct this next question to you. And by the way, we're very grateful for working your schedule out to join us. I know when we started this conversation with you initially, it was like trying to find a date that we could all connect to get everyone here. And so it's a pleasure to have you coming to South Carolina to work with us and to share with the congregations here about the importance of a narrative budget. And the question that we've actually been pondering and thinking about ourselves is we're curious of if there's something, what's the impact that these, when a congregation develops a narrative budget, do you have any research or any, maybe it may be purely anecdotal, but any stories to share on how this has had when they create this narrative budget, what kind of what kind of impact has it had on their giving, or did it help the congregation increase their generosity at all? Can you give us something on that one?
Yeah, thanks, Pastor. The short answer to your question is yes, it has a positive impact on not only the mission spending plan or the budget, but also just the general life of the congregation. But more importantly, the way that a narrative budget or a narrative mission plan changes things is largely through the conversations you have. Instead of just saying the quantitative work, which a line item budget is, you also, not instead of, but also see the qualitative work of the ministry impact that your congregation does, because you hear the stories that are behind those numbers. I remind folks all the time that a narrative budget does not replace a line item budget, it's added to. And usually when we presented it in my home congregations where I was a pastor, we would give the narrative budget first, and then we would have the line item budget on the back. And the reason that we did this is because the narrative budget explains the ministry impact, and the line item budget is for those who like to see the raw numbers, those things there. But so often when we just show raw numbers, our hearts aren't moved. Instead, our brains are moved. And usually we start to quibble about actual numbers. When we hear stories, when we see the impact that those numbers make on the lives of our folks, then we start to talk about how can we increase more, have more impact? How can we increase those numbers so that we can reach more people, because it's obviously life-changing. The conversations you have around your budget or your mission spending plan will change because of this work.
Thank you, Tim, very much. I really appreciate both of you taking time to answer these questions today. And those that are watching this, please register for this workshop. You will not be disappointed. I will share this, a quick story, as I used the narrative budget. Actually, Pastor Ozzy held a workshop, and actually Ventures and Stewards, I believe, was the program that we were using, and I was a mission developer, and so we started thinking about how are we going to get people really involved with what was happening, and we figured it out very quickly. The narrative budget was the answer to that, because people connect. It's like it becomes relational. So we're very grateful that you two are coming down and going to be providing this workshop for us. Thank you again. Again, it's September 6th. Register. We look forward to seeing you at this workshop. Tim, Nick, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.